Okay, so evolutionary biology. Later this week, we will be doing an activity where you are going to look at the different branches of evolutionary biology. It'll be kind of fun. You guys will have time to work in groups at these different stations. I think we'll probably take Thursday and Friday to do it. And it's actually kind of fun activity. Everyone liked it pretty well last year, so hopefully you guys like it too. So in this unit, you will learn the answers to the following questions. Okay, what is evolution? All right. What pieces of evidence do scientists have for the existence of evolution? Who was Darwin? What is natural selection? What needs to happen in order for no evolution to occur? All right, because that will be on your test. And can those conditions ever exist? Why or why not? Why is variation important? And how can new species form? That's really the outline for this whole unit. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a good idea of where we're going. So evolution is a change in species over time. It can be defined as, let's see, the process by which. It is the process by which. You guys see that in your notes? It's the second part. I think the first part is change in species over time. That's a very small blank for that, isn't it? Can you tell which part I did not do? You could always make change as a delta too. You guys know that, right? Like to abbreviate, you can do change in species over time. So it is the process by which modern organisms have descended from ancient ones. Have descended from ancient ones. Good? Darwin's theory of evolution is widely accepted by the entire scientific community. Just kidding. Here we go. So theories in science. A theory in science is different from everyday theories you might be used to. A theory is a well-tested, so that's your first blank, is a well-tested, come on, first period, wake up. Well-tested explanation that unifies a broad range of, thank you, observations. I got one person awake this morning. So evolutionary theory unifies all different fields of biology together due to its many lines of evidence. So, with somebody next to you, define evolution and define theory in your own words. Okay? What is the relationship between these two? Okay, so the theory of evolution was first developed using the fossil record and routine observations of living organisms, and two explanations were given. Lamarckism versus Darwinism. So both argued that organisms change over time. Lamarck suggested that it was a result of acquired traits. And Darwin explained that evolution was the result of natural selection. So evidence for evolution. Today we know evolution exists for many reasons, and in these next slide you will observe, oh my goodness, some of those reasons yourself. Okay? So evidence for evolution, living organisms. So the first kind of living organisms we have are types of evidence that fits into living organisms as a topic are homologous, analogous, and vestigial structures, right? You guys defined vestigial structures yesterday, correct? You actually did vestigial organs, right? Okay. Embryology, artificial selection, and hybridization. Then we also have the fossil record, which shows fossils of extant. That's a great SAT word for you. Extant is the opposite of extinct. Okay? Extinct, extant, and intermediate species. So any examples you see, write them down next to that section in your notes because you will need them later. I can promise you that. So evidence for evolution. Homologous structures are similar structures due to common ancestry or relatedness. Okay? But they may have different functions now that we're all different organisms. For example, all vertebrates have very similarly shaped forelimbs. Okay? You can see a human arm definitely resembles the bones and the structure of a cat leg and a bat wing and a dolphin flipper. So here's another example, right? Bird beaks and duck bills. They all have a very similar shape and design. So homologous structures, why did they show evidence for evolution? Okay? Here we can see that all of these insects use similarly shaped mouth parts in order to bite, chew, pierce, suck, drink nectar, etc. All right? So, why do you guys think that they show an evidence for evolution? Yes?
That's what makes up their theory.
Yeah, right? These similar structures definitely must have come from a similar ancestor, right? Which is what the theory of evolution is proposing. So analogous structures, on the other hand, have similar functions and appearance, but develop differently and have different anatomy, okay? So the structures evolved separately, not from a common ancestor. Here's an example. A bird wing and an insect wing. Are those similar structures? Like physically what they're made out of and how they're shaped and everything. Are those very similar? No. But are they used for the same purpose?
Yeah.
Yes, they're both wings used for flying. Okay, so that's analogous. Does that make sense? If it's homologous, they're very similar in structure and build and the material and everything. If it's analogous, they're two very different things used for the same purpose. So here's the flipper of a dolphin and of a seal, and a penguin. Okay? Those are more similar. Why do analogous structures show evidence for evolution? We see that's the eye of a vertebrate and the eye of a mollusk. A mollusk is like a type of sea creature. So we can see all of these structures, right, even though they've developed differently in different animals, there's still some commonality to them, correct? There's still this pressure of selection towards developing an eye that can perceive light, determine direction, and help, whether it be humans or sea creatures or insects, navigate where they're going. So vestigial structures. These are apparently useless structures in one organism, but served purpose in prior organisms. The classic example of this is the human tailbone. Okay, do you have a tail? No, but you sure do have a tailbone. Actually, some people still develop a little tail, and they usually cut it off after birth. Yep. Your appendix? Can you live without your appendix?
Yes.
Absolutely. I do not have one. I have never noticed the difference before and after. Okay? And pelvic bones in snakes and whales. Does a snake need a pelvis?
No.
Why?
Because, I don't know.
Does a snake have legs?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Does a snake need a pelvis if it has no legs?
No.
Nope. So here's the tailbone in humans. Okay? you can see there's really not much of a need for it. Boa constrictors with legs. All right, so you can see there's like leftover areas for where the legs would have formed. Okay, and right here, it's kind of hard to tell in that picture up there. You can actually see like where the legs would poke out. There's like little nubbins. I think that's the scientific term for it, nubbins, just so you know. You should add that to your vocab list. So, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds, and I want you and the person next to you. What is evolution? What is the difference between homologous and analogous structures? Give an example of each. Give an example of vestigial structure. You can even jot these down on the side of your paper or the back of your paper, which I highly recommend since these very closely mimic some test questions. Okay, and why are these evidence for evolution? Go. Okay, so embryological similarities. This is a fun part of the lab activity you'll do on Thursday and Friday, where you have to try and guess like whose embryo matches with what animal. Okay, embryological similarities are seen in the development of different species. Why would embryology show evidence for evolution? Do you think it's just a random chance that living things all develop similarly? Like all plants go from a seed to their plant stage in a very similar sequence of steps, right? All mammals give birth to what? Live babies, right? Reptiles and birds, do they give birth to live babies? What do they have? Eggs, okay? So you can see that there are strong commonalities about how the embryos develop in different animals and different groups of living things, all right? Artificial selection. So artificial selection is can be seen when humans do selective breeding, okay? And it is similar to natural selection. Artificial selection is exactly how we come up with things like the golden doodle. Somebody was like, you know what would be the cutest dog ever? A golden retriever mixed with a poodle. I'm going to do it and call it a golden doodle.
My grandma has
Your grandma has a golden doodle?
Yeah.
I love it. I had a Chiweenie. It was part Chihuahua, part winter dog. Chiweenie. She was kind of ugly, actually, but I loved her. Now I have, what are they called? I forget. I have a Corgi Pomeranian mix. And they're weird. Okay, so what does artificial selection show evidence for evolution? Dogs are a classic example of this, okay? All dogs started off as some sort of wild ancestor, and then over time, as we domesticated them, we bred them with smaller ones, or bigger ones, or ones that were better at hunting, or ones that were great at being lap dogs, and that's how we've seen so much variety develop from all the different kind of dogs, right? Like, you could have a pit bull, or you could have a mini pin, and they're very different dogs. So fluidity of species barrier or hybridization. This is kind of interesting, okay? The fact that we can create hybrids shows evolutionary relatedness between species, okay? For example, the tigon is a female tiger, is a male tiger plus a female lion. When they have babies together, Elijah, we call it a tigon. Or a liger, as Napoleon Dynamite made so famous.
No, but like it switched up.
A mule is what?
A donkey and a horse.
A donkey and a horse. Okay, so a donkey and a horse fall in love. They do the special hug. They have a mule.
I'm kind of lost right
Molecular analysis. So macromolecular analysis. So proteins such as RNA and DNA are similar between different species. For example, a human versus a frog hemoglobin is only 67 different amino acids out of thousands, right? Out of thousands and thousands, only 67 of them are different. Human versus gorilla hemoglobin, there's only one amino acid difference. Their hemoglobin is nearly exactly identical to ours, except for one amino acid. Hemoglobin is a protein in your blood that allows oxygen to bind to your blood so it can go everywhere else in your body. So it's really important. In fact, carbon monoxide poisoning, that happens when carbon monoxide, right, CO, bonds to your hemoglobin, but when that bonds to hemoglobin, it's irreversible. So if you are exposed to too much carbon monoxide, even if somebody gets you out into the fresh air, you can still die from carbon monoxide poisoning because your hemoglobin can no longer bond to anything else. And that process will eventually suffocate you, and you will die. Just sad. Good morning to all of you. All right. So why are each of the following considered to be evidence for existence of evolution? We have, so far, the things we've covered are artificial selection, which shows that when we breed dogs for different purposes, we are able to create a lot of variation. Does that make sense? Yes? Cool. Hybridization, okay? That's our Tygon and our Liger and our Chihuahuas and our Golden Doodles. It's pretty cool. Embryology, all living things develop similarly, okay? And molecular analysis, at an actual molecular level, our DNA, our RNA, our proteins show that they are very similar in structure and in function, okay? Fossil record. Fossil record's everyone's favorite because who doesn't like fossils and dinosaurs and things like that? And if you don't, just lie to me and tell me you do. Okay, so extinction of species has happened. Totally gone. They're wiped out. And the fossils show transitional organisms. So we might see like something that looks similar to a horse, but it's not all the way full-scale horse like we have today, and it's not dinosaur. It's like in the middle. Does that make sense?
No.
That's a transitional organism. Fossils and similar modern organisms are found in similar places. So like woolly mammoths, right? We know they used to exist. Do we still have woolly mammoths? No. What are they similarly related to in elephants, right? In today's living record, I guess you could say. Ancestor of modern whales, Ambulocetus, yeah, I don't know how to say that, okay, had hind limbs. So here's what it kind of looked like at first. It almost looks like an alligator, right? But like more webbed. Looks angrier. And as you can see, there's the structure of the hind limbs. And if you actually x-ray a whale, where their tail is, even though there's like no limbs or fins or anything, okay, they have those bones inside their body. They just don't actually grow out and develop into limbs anymore. Just like you have the bones for a tail, right? And do you have a tail? I'm sorry to anyone who has a tail in here. You don't have to tell us. Okay? Hominid species. So these are all different human-ish skulls that we have found. Okay? That look very similar in shape and size to human skulls, but clearly are not, you know, what any of us have going on in our head right now. So the fossil record, this one shows you the history of the horse. So this is what I was talking about transitional organisms. I should take this with me. So, for example, you can see that this was our ancestor, okay? It's smaller, it's almost like gazelle-like, but still a little horse-like. So we can see over time, selection made it a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. This one looks very similar to today's modern horse, yes? Mm-hmm. And then we can see it developed a little more and a little more. And so we can see from fossils that these animals used to exist, and they're very similar to today's horse, but they no longer exist. So that would be a transitional organism to go from the original, from this what am I doing? From this form to the modern form. Transitional organism. Biogeographical evidence. So how plants and animals are distributed worldwide. Do we see kangaroos walking around America? No. Not really, right? Do you see polar bears?
No.
Walking around California? I did not think so. So marsupials are found mainly in Australia. Have you guys seen those like videos, YouTube things of like people getting kicked by a kangaroo?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap, that is some serious fighting skill.
That big food.
All right. I think we are going to do this tomorrow.
Alright, cool.
We will do that tomorrow. Is this on your notes, this last little part? Did we finish all the notes? This is part of it? Okay. So fossils are the preserved remains or traces of animals, plants, and other organisms from the past. And the sum of all discovered and undiscovered fossils is called the... Anyone? Thank you. Is there any more on this lecture notes?
No.
Okay, good. All right. That's it.